On this course, we engage with contemporary practices of exhibitions and heritage. We talk about in our classes how the current practices of curating and managing collections operate. We think about our perspectives on this.
I think an aim of the course has always been to obviously give the students what you would expect from a master's degree, which is a very solid academic understanding of museological issues, but to also ensure there is that kind of grain of current practice.
Students have the opportunity to practice their own ways of thinking about the museum sector. So they get an opportunity to think about what they like about the sector, how they might change it if they could, and perhaps if they will in the future, through their assessments, through the discussions that we have in seminars.
We deliver sessions with our colleagues from Royal Pavilion and Museums Trust on conservation, on things like disaster planning and object handling. We do sessions around thinking about funding and income management.
One of the really nice things about the course is that students can have the opportunity to take modules within the Brighton Business School, which is part of our university. And that was very much driven by recommendations from the sector that people who are working particularly in smaller institutions, but also managing teams of people, would have some specialism in management, either of people, of finance, marketing, all those kinds of skills that you might not necessarily expect a curator to need, but you certainly do when you work in those kinds of organisations.
So there's a module called Critical Perspectives on Exhibitions, where we examine, understand exhibition practices. We think about different kinds of exhibition spaces, from heritage sites like country houses through to contemporary art exhibitions.
One of the key components of the course is to give students an understanding of the digital opportunities and challenges that museums face, but not necessarily to really equip students to become digital specialists, but I think essentially to really have an understanding of the issues and how to have those conversations with stakeholders and digital specialists that they might need to engage to take on that work.
Brighton is such a dynamic cultural environment. There are some really fantastic collections and organisations that students have access to when they come to Brighton. We've had some fantastic guest speakers from the British Museum, from the V&A, from the Towner, the Museums Association, Heritage Lottery Fund, a real mix of art galleries and local organisations like Ditchling Museum of Art and Craft.
Agendas around social justice and decolonising museums are really important to us, as they are in the sector at present, and those ideas feed into the course, and we ask students to be engaged in critical thinking around those issues.
You think about representation of communities in museums, but also access to museums for communities. So these are really important questions.
Two of our museums are right in the heart of the city, so we can use these spaces to support some of the teaching. So for example, this room has been used for workshops on preventative conservation. We have also invited students to come in and see some of the new work we are doing, including new digital applications we're testing in our galleries.
Students come to us from all sorts of different backgrounds, and it's really lovely to have students who might specialise in fashion and dress history or art history, but also histories of war or business studies or natural sciences. We have a real mix of people who are interested in the material and visual world and want to think through the structures that support that kind of the museum and heritage sector in relation to those collections. In recent years, graduates have done really well and gone on to all sorts of exciting careers across the sector, working for kind of funders like the Heritage Lottery Fund, but also for museums as curators, as community engagement officers, as digitisation officers, all sorts of quite broad-ranging jobs in various kind of institutions.